Fear is one of the quietest prisons we live in. It doesn't always shout or threaten. It whispers, don't try. Don't speak. Don't change. It's invisible, but it shapes everything. It decides what you say, what you chase, what you avoid, and even who you believe you are allowed to become. You may not see its walls, but you feel them. The hesitation before an opportunity. The unease before a decision. The way your body tightens when you imagine losing something you love. Fear is subtle, patient, and persuasive. It convinces you that it's protecting you, when in truth, it's keeping you small. We live in a world that worships certainty. We're taught to plan every step, predict every outcome, and avoid every risk. But life, as the Buddha reminded us, is uncertain by nature. Change is not the enemy, resistance to it is. And yet, every time we meet the unknown, fear appears like a shadow. It says, you need to control this. You need to be sure. And when we can't be sure, because we never truly can, anxiety takes its place. For thousands of years, Buddhist wisdom has looked directly at this human struggle, not to escape it, but to understand it. The Buddha didn't deny fear. He studied it. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree not in perfect peace, but in confrontation with every shadow of the mind. And what he discovered changed humanity. That fear isn't something to run from, nor something to destroy. It's something to see clearly. When we see fear clearly, we realize it's not a monster lurking in the dark, it's a messenger. It appears whenever something in us is ready to grow. It stands at the threshold between who we are and who we could become. And like every teacher, it speaks in the language of discomfort. So the question isn't, how do I make fear disappear? The real question is, what is fear trying to show me? If you look closely, you'll notice fear hides within every major turning point of your life. Before every act of courage, there it was. Before love, before creation, before change, it appeared, whispering reasons to stay still. But the moment you walked forward despite it, something powerful happened. Fear didn't vanish, it transformed into energy. Awareness, presence, that is the alchemy Buddhist teaching points to, transforming fear into wisdom. Modern psychology calls this exposure and integration. Buddhism calls it mindfulness and insight. Different words, same truth. Whatever you are willing to face, you free. Whatever you avoid, controls you. Fear is not the problem. The problem is forgetting that you are more than fear. Beneath the trembling, beneath the noise, there is something still and vast, awareness itself. The Buddha called it the unborn, undying mind. When you touch that space, even for a moment, fear loses its authority. It may still visit, but it no longer commands you. So as you listen today, I invite you to see fear not as an obstacle, but as a mirror reflecting the parts of you still waiting for understanding. You don't need to fight it. You only need to observe it, gently, patiently, honestly. For over 2.500 years, these teachings have guided countless people through storms of uncertainty, loss, and change. They don't promise a life without fear. They promise a life where fear no longer defines you. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 6 timeless Buddhist lessons that show you how to stop running, how to breathe again, and how to meet life, even its chaos, with courage and clarity. Because once you understand fear, you don't just overcome it. You walk through it, and discover the freedom that was always waiting on the other side. Lesson 1: Embrace impermanence, Anicca. For most of my life studying Buddhist philosophy, one truth has echoed louder than any other, and yet, it's the one we most resist: impermanence. The Buddha called it Anicca, the natural law that nothing, not even our pain, lasts forever. Everything we touch, love, fear, and build is moving, changing, dissolving, right now. As you listen, fear begins the moment we forget this. It grows when we start to believe that what we have must stay, or that what we've lost will never return. We cling to our job, our body, our youth, our loved ones, as if holding them tightly could stop time. But the truth is, life is already changing beneath our grip. You can feel this when something precious ends, a relationship you thought would last, a career that defined you, a parent's gentle voice that no longer answers. In those moments, fear feels like the collapse of the world. But look closer. What truly collapses is the illusion of permanence. It's not life betraying you, it's life being honest. When the Buddha spoke of impermanence, He wasn't teaching detachment in a cold, distant way. He was pointing us toward freedom, toward a heart so open that it can hold both joy and sorrow without breaking. He was showing us that change isn't an intruder, it's the very pulse of existence. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean. The waves rush in, then slide away. Each wave is different, yet none are lost, they become the next. Your life is that ocean. Every moment arrives to be lived, and then it leaves, making space for the next breath, the next love, the next lesson. And the only reason we suffer is because we try to build a dam across the sea. When you accept Anicca, you stop demanding that things stay the same. You begin to see beauty even in endings, the last leaf falling, the final conversation, the sunset that says, I was here. It doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop clinging. You still love deeply, but without chains. You still hope, but without fear. In that moment, a quiet miracle unfolds. Fear loosens its hold. You realize that everything you thought you were losing, the job, the youth, the certainty, was never truly yours. They were experiences passing through you, like wind through an open window. And what remains, what has always been here, is the one who witnesses it all, the awareness behind the storm. So when fear rises again, as it will, pause. Breathe. Notice what the mind is clutching. Then whisper softly, this too will pass. Say it to your worries, your grief, your joy. Say it until the words are no longer comfort but truth. Because that's the secret hidden inside impermanence. Nothing stays, not even fear. And when you truly see that, you stop being afraid of change. You become it. Lesson 2: See through the illusion of fear. After many years studying the human mind through both Buddhist psychology and modern science, I've come to see fear not as a monster, but as a storyteller, and quite a dramatic one. The mind, when left unchecked, loves to create stories, and fear is often its most convincing fiction. It spins entire worlds from a single thought, turns one uncertain moment into a full-blown disaster, and convinces us that imagination is reality. Think of how it happens. Someone texts you, "We need to talk." Instantly, your pulse quickens. In a matter of seconds, your mind writes a script. You did something wrong. They're upset. You're about to lose something important. The conversation hasn't even happened, but your body is already reacting as if it has. That is the power of mental projection. Fear doesn't need proof, it only needs belief. The Buddha described this as Maya, the illusion that tricks the senses. Our fears are often shadows cast by our own thinking. They feel solid, yet vanish when examined under the light of awareness. When you pause and observe fear directly, without judgment, without resistance, you begin to see what it truly is: a sequence of thoughts, sensations, and chemical reactions, not an objective truth. Modern psychology agrees. The amygdala, that ancient part of the brain wired for survival, cannot distinguish between real danger and imagined threat. So the mind paints a vivid picture, and the body responds as if lions still roam the streets. The result? We live in a constant state of inner alarm, not because life is dangerous, but because our thoughts keep shouting, "What if?" Here's the liberating part. Awareness breaks the spell. When you see fear as a thought, not a fact, you create distance between you and it. That distance is freedom. Instead of drowning inside the storm, you become the sky that contains it. You can feel the sensations, the quick heartbeat, the tension in your chest, without letting them define you. You are not your fear, you are the one who sees it. Try this simple but profound practice. The next time fear arises, name it out loud or silently. This is fear, not truth. It might feel mechanical at first, but it works. The act of labeling restores your authority over the mind's narrative. Each time you name it, the illusion loses a bit more of its power. The story weakens, the awareness strengthens. And here's what's beautiful: when you stop believing every fearful thought, the world doesn't become colder, it becomes clearer. You start to notice that behind each fear is often a desire for love, safety, certainty. By seeing the illusion, you don't suppress fear, you understand it. And when something is understood, it no longer has to scream. Fear, in the end, is not the enemy. It's just imagination wearing the mask of truth. When you see through it, really see, you don't just silence fear, you awaken from it. Lesson 3: Practice mindfulness, Sati. If impermanence teaches us that everything changes, mindfulness shows us how to meet those changes without breaking. The Buddha called this Sati, awareness anchored in the present moment. And it is, without exaggeration, one of the most direct antidotes to fear ever discovered. Because fear cannot survive in the now. It only breathes in the air of what if. Think about the last time you were anxious, waiting for exam results, preparing to speak in public, or anticipating a difficult conversation. Long before anything actually happened, your mind was already there, rehearsing failure, embarrassment, rejection. The body followed that script, heart pounding, hands trembling, stomach tightening. That's the chain reaction. Thought becomes feeling. Feeling becomes belief. Belief becomes reality. But mindfulness interrupts that cycle. It doesn't suppress fear or argue with it. It simply turns the light on. You stop following the story and start observing the storyteller. You feel the body, the quickened breath, the tight chest, the pulse in your throat, and realize, this is what fear feels like in this moment. And that simple act of observation shifts everything. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Buddha discovered millennia ago. When we bring attention to our breath, to the sensations of the body, activity in the fear centers of the brain, the amygdala and limbic system, begins to quiet. Awareness literally rewires the brain, teaching it that not every alarm deserves a response. In practice, mindfulness feels like standing in the middle of a storm but not being swept away. The wind howls, the rain falls, yet there's a stillness inside you, a silent witness untouched by it all. That stillness is always here. Mindfulness is simply remembering it. So when fear rises, don't try to push it away. Let it be. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and feel your breath move through you. With each inhale, mentally whisper, here. With each exhale, now. Here, grounds you in place. Now, grounds you in time. Together, they dissolve the fog of imagined futures. At first, your mind will wander, it will shout, argue, panic. That's okay. Every time you notice you've drifted, that noticing is mindfulness. You've already come home. Over time, the space between the thought and your awareness widens. And in that space, fear loses its voice. Mindfulness doesn't make you immune to fear, it makes you intimate with it. You learn to feel it as energy passing through, not as truth. Not as destiny, not as you. And something extraordinary happens when you stop fighting fear and start breathing with it. It transforms. The trembling becomes warmth, the tightness becomes release, the noise becomes silence. In that silence, you find peace, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Lesson 4: Understand the nature of suffering, dukkha. One of the most misunderstood ideas in Buddhism is dukkha, often translated simply as suffering. But dukkha isn't just pain, it's the quiet unease that runs through all human experience, the constant sense that something is missing. That life should be easier, smoother, more certain than it is. Fear is one of its sharpest expressions. We fear not because we are broken, but because we are alive. We fear losing what we love, not being enough, failing in front of others, aging, or dying. Each of these fears is a thread in the same tapestry of human experience. And that's the first truth we often forget. Fear is universal. It's not a personal defect, it's part of being human. Think about how often fear hides behind comparison. You scroll through someone's perfect life online, their career, their family, their confidence, and suddenly, your chest tightens. You feel smaller, less capable. That quiet voice whispers, "I'll never be like that." But here's the truth that mindfulness and wisdom reveal. That person you admire has their own fears, their own sleepless nights, their own private dukkha. You just don't see it. The Buddha never promised a life without pain. What he offered was understanding, a way to see suffering clearly. And in seeing it, to be free from it. When you understand that dukkha is woven into existence itself, something softens inside you. You stop taking your fears so personally. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" This shift is profound, because when fear is no longer a personal failure, compassion arises, both for yourself and for others. You start to realize that every person you meet, no matter how composed they appear, carries their own silent battle. And that awareness replaces judgment with empathy, isolation with connection. The Buddha compared this realization to discovering that an arrow has struck you. The first arrow, life's pain, is inevitable. But the second arrow, the one we shoot ourselves with by resisting, blaming, or comparing, that one is optional. Fear, when seen through the lens of dukkha, becomes the invitation to stop shooting the second arrow. So when fear next visits you, don't shame yourself for it. Instead, take a breath and remember, you are not weak for being afraid, you are human. This understanding doesn't trap you in pain, it frees you from its loneliness. Try this small reflection. Think of one person you deeply admire, a teacher, a friend, a loved one. Imagine, for just a moment, that they too feel fear, that they too doubt, stumble, and worry. Feel that connection. Let it melt the wall between you and the rest of the world. Because the moment you recognize that we all suffer, we all fear, we all strive to be at peace, that's the moment suffering begins to lose its hold. Compassion enters, and where compassion lives, fear cannot stay. Lesson 5. Let go of attachment, Taṇhā, upadana. If you look closely at almost every fear you've ever felt, you'll find a thread of attachment woven into it. The Buddha called this Taṇhā, craving, thirst, and its companion upadana, clinging or grasping. Together, they form the roots of fear and suffering. We're afraid not simply because life is uncertain, but because we want life to obey us. We want outcomes to bend to our will, people to stay, success to continue, the body to never age. Fear is born from that silent bargain. I'll be okay only if things go my way. Take a moment and trace your latest anxiety. Maybe you fear failure, because you're attached to success and the identity it gives you. Or you fear rejection, because you're attached to being liked, to approval, to belonging. Or perhaps you fear loss, because you're attached to the illusion that love must mean possession. Each of these fears isn't random, it's the echo of something you're holding too tightly. Attachment always whispers the same thing. I can't be okay without this. Wisdom always answers, you already are. When we cling, we shrink the size of our world. We define happiness by conditions, I'll be peaceful when, and life, in its infinite unpredictability, constantly threatens those conditions. That's why fear follows attachment like a shadow. The moment you grip, you create something to lose. Letting go, then, is not about indifference. Buddhism never asks you to stop caring. It asks you to care without fear, to love without owning, to act with purpose, but without demanding reward. Non-attachment doesn't numb you, it frees you to engage with life fully. Because you no longer need everything to go your way to feel whole. Imagine standing on the shore with open hands. When the tide brings something, a success, a relationship, a moment of joy, you receive it with gratitude. When it leaves, you bow to the empty palms that remain. This is not resignation, it's participation in the rhythm of existence. In that openness, fear begins to dissolve, because what can life take from you? When you've stopped making conditions for peace, the heart that can let go is the heart that nothing can destroy. So today, practice a simple act of surrender. Write down one thing you can't control, maybe a person's opinion, an outcome, or the timing of something you're waiting for. Then, with sincerity, say, I release what isn't mine to control. You may feel resistance, the mind will protest. But what if? Smile at that voice. It's the same old story of attachment, begging for certainty in an uncertain world. Gently, breathe through it. Freedom doesn't mean having nothing, it means nothing has you. And when you learn to care deeply yet cling lightly, fear loses its sharpest weapon. You discover a deeper safety, the kind that doesn't depend on anything staying the same. Lesson 6. Cultivate patience, Khanti. Among the countless virtues the Buddha taught, Khanti, patience, may seem the quietest, yet it is one of the most transformative. Patience is not simply waiting, it is trusting the unseen rhythm of life. It is the art of surrendering control without losing heart, of staying calm when the mind demands quick answers. If fear is a fire that burns through uncertainty, patience is the cool rain that tames it. So much of modern fear is really impatience in disguise. We fear what we can't predict. We panic when results take time. And we doubt ourselves when progress moves slowly. We check our messages every few minutes, refresh emails, watch the clock, as if forcing time could force destiny. Behind that restlessness is a craving, the thirst for certainty. We want to know now. And when we don't, the mind fills the silence with stories of failure, rejection, or loss. The Buddha understood that this craving for immediacy is one of the deepest causes of suffering. Because life unfolds at its own pace, not ours. The seed doesn't bloom faster because we stare at it. The sunrise doesn't rush because we're waiting. Every living thing follows a natural order. And wisdom is learning to move with it rather than against it. Patience, then, is not weakness or passivity, it is a profound act of confidence. It's saying to the universe, I trust your timing more than my fear. When we stop demanding that everything resolve now, the body softens, the breath deepens, and the nervous system begins to recalibrate. Peace returns, not because the problem has vanished, but because we've stopped fighting the clock. Think of a time you waited anxiously for an answer, exam results, medical tests, or a message from someone you love. You might remember the ache of that waiting, how each hour felt longer, how the mind jumped between hope and dread. But eventually, the moment of truth arrived. And whether the outcome was good or bad, you survived it, you adapted, you moved on. That is Khanti at work. Life's quiet proof that fear dissolves in time. Like ice in sunlight. When you practice patience, you start to notice something subtle, beneath the restlessness. There is space, a gap between thought and reaction. That space is freedom, the same freedom the Buddha spoke of. Within it, you can breathe, observe, and choose calm over chaos. Here's a simple way to bring this into your daily life. The next time anxiety rises, pause, breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and rest for 4, the 4-4-4-4 rhythm. With each cycle, silently repeat, I can wait in peace. Let the body learn that waiting is not suffering, it's an invitation to trust. Patience doesn't make you slower, it makes you steady. And when steadiness replaces urgency, fear has nowhere left to live. Fear was never your enemy, it was always your doorway. A doorway to awareness, to courage, to freedom. Every time you turned toward it instead of away, you reclaimed a part of yourself you had forgotten. The trembling, the uncertainty, the ache, they were never punishments. They were invitations. Fear is not darkness, it is the call to light. When you look closely, you see that fear has always pointed you home, home to stillness, to clarity, to the unshakable part of you that no storm can touch. So don't rush to kill fear. Learn from it, walk with it, let it guide you, because in walking through fear, you are not losing your strength, you are discovering it. Take a moment right now, breathe in deeply, and notice the peace that has been quietly waiting underneath the noise. This peace isn't something you have to earn. It's already yours. The Buddha said, within this very body and mind lies the world's end. Meaning, everything you seek, safety, calm, freedom, it's not somewhere else. It's within this awareness, the one that's hearing these words right now. So as we close, let us extend that awareness outward, beyond our own lives, to the lives of all beings. May this moment of peace ripple outward, to every corner of a world trembling in its own fear. May it reach those who are suffering from war, from loss, from hunger, from storms and fires and floods. May it reach every heart that feels forgotten, every mind that can't find rest. And may the compassion of the Buddha, the light of his wisdom and love, embrace them, wherever they are. May all beings, in every land and every language, remember, they are not alone. They are not the fear they feel. They are the awareness behind it. If today's teachings brought you even a small moment of calm or clarity, share it. Someone out there might be walking through their own darkness right now, and your simple act of sharing could be the light that guides them home. Here on Dharma Veins, our journey continues, exploring the timeless truths that connect ancient wisdom with modern life. If you'd like to keep walking this path together, subscribe, and join our growing community of seekers who believe that healing the mind begins with understanding it. Before you go, I want to leave you with one question. One that may change how you meet fear the next time it visits. What if the thing you fear most is actually the next doorway your soul is asking you to walk through? Take that question with you. Sit with it, let it unfold in your own time. And until we meet again, may you walk gently, breathe deeply, and live bravely. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free from fear. May all beings find peace.